friends, it's Megan. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my October wrap-up. If you were staying tuned with my weekly vlogs, you will know that I did not complete hardly any of my October TBR, but I did read quite a few audiobooks, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. The first book I read is First Love by James Patterson. I read this as an audiobook, and this tells the story of Axie and Robinson, who are two kids who are just dealing with a lot in life, and they decide to take a cross-country trip just to escape for a little bit, and it ends up being sort of a trope that is not my favorite, so I only gave it 3 to 3.5 stars. The next book I read is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. This tells the story of this haunted manor, or what is presumed to be a haunted manor, and these news reporters go to this house and are kind of checking things out, seeing if it's actually haunted. And this house isn't actually haunted, it just kind of alters a specific person's mind and makes them go kind of crazy. And that is what happened to our main character. So it tells her story and her going crazy throughout the house. It was a pretty cool spooky story, but it wasn't my favorite story ever, so I gave this one 4 stars. The next book I read is Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This is the sequel to The Savage Song. If you're not familiar with The Savage Song, it tells the story of Kate Harker and August, who Kate is a human who wants to be a monster, and August is a monster who wants to be a human, so they're kind of dealing with that. They form a friendship and are trying to fight back, and this is the sequel to that, so it's a good story. It's written really well, but it's not my favorite story, so I'm really struggling with what to do with this. The other two books, such as these two, I will most likely just be unhauling, but this one I struggle with because I actually met Victoria Schwab on my birthday. This book is signed and I had such high hopes for it, and it's not that it fell flat, it's just not my particular story, so it wasn't disappointing, it was just not my kind of story, so it's really hard to decide what to do with it. But I ended up giving this one 3 stars. And another book I read this month was The Last Die by Yancey. This is the 3rd book in the 5th Wave trilogy. The 5th Wave tells the story of a world in which the aliens have invaded, and it's the 5 waves of their invasion, and it tells the story of Cassie, who believes she is the last person on Earth until she meets other people, so this is her story primarily, but there are other points of view. And I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I gave the first book 5 stars, the second book 4 stars, and then this one 5 stars again. Next, I don't have it anymore because I returned it to the library, but I've read Choose Your Own Disaster, and I forget who it's by, but I will put them down below, of course, in my description. But this was basically a choose your own story kind of book, only it tells the story from the perspective of a young adult woman who's trying to figure out what to do with her life, and it feels like no matter what you choose, your life kind of ends up messed up from this book, so it was a choose your own disaster story. It was a pretty cool concept. It didn't really have the emphasis or oomph that I thought it would, so I ended up giving that one 3 stars as well. Next, I read P.S. I Still Love You by Jenny Han. This is the sequel to All the Boys I've Loved Before. If you're not familiar with To All the Boys I've Loved Before, it tells the story of Lara Jean, who wrote these love letters to boys she's loved in the past as a way to release her feelings for them without actually telling them, because she was younger and she just was trying to figure out what love was, and her younger sister actually sends out these letters and the boys receive them, and so Lara Jean is dealing with the repercussions of that. And this is a sequel. I really loved it a lot. I don't agree with who she ended up with in this book, but I'm excited to continue reading this, and also for the Netflix movie coming out next year. I gave this one 5 stars. Next, I read Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and this is by Ransom. I enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I would, and it was a lot of fun. It tells the story of Jacob, whose grandfather has told him stories of this magical home that he was in when he was younger, and Jacob believes them to be fairy tales and fantasies. However, one day when his grandfather dies, he kind of goes a little crazy, and he goes on this quest to discover if the home is actually real. And this tells the story behind all of that, and it was really, really good. I didn't think it was gonna be like that kind of story, but it was still really good, and I gave it 4.5 stars. And I also really want to watch the movie now, even though I know Olive and Emma's powers are switched. I have no idea why, but I'm interested and very intrigued to watch the movie now. Next, I read Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr. This tells the story of Aislinn, who is a human with the sight to see fairies. However, she has lived her life living like she does not have the sight, so she pretends she can't see. However, one day, Keenan, the summer fairy king, decides that Aislinn is the person that he's going to marry, and so she is dealt with the repercussion of becoming his future wife. This honestly felt like a knockoff ACOTAR in a way, and it ended just way too nicely and perfectly for my taste. I like a little more things that will make me want to die inside a little when I'm reading. Apparently, I want things that make me suffer, but it's fine. So I give this one 3 stars. It definitely wasn't my favorite book of this month. And the last book I read is Scrappy Little Nobody by Anna Kendrick. This is an autobiography written by Anna Kendrick. Obviously, if it's an autobiography. Anyways, it tells her story from like her elementary years to now, and how she's dealt with fame and how she's dealt with friends and everything like that. It was a really good story. I like her opinion and her point of view on a lot of things. However, it did give me a different perspective of her as a person, which is not a bad thing. I just did not see her that way, and now I do, and that's fine. I just learned a lot more about her. So it was pretty interesting. I gave it 3.5 stars just because it was entertaining, but like autobiographies aren't necessarily my favorite form of book. So yeah. So that is what I read this month. I would say my favorite book of this month was probably P.S. I Still Love You. It was the most enjoyable out of all of them so far. Miss Peregrine's Home was also really good, so it's a toss-up between those two. But I didn't read any like outstanding books this month. I know I gave 2 of them 4.5 to 5 stars, but overall I didn't have any books that just like wowed me this month. So it was a pretty substandard month, but I'm hoping to pick it back up again in November now that I have some more time. And thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what books you read in October down below, and also what book I read this month that was your favorite. If you've read any, let me know your thoughts, and also let me know like what books you think I should read based on my reviews here. So thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will check in with you in my next video. Bye friends!